Hello, this is Greg Smalley on Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast. Joined today, as I often am, by the indefatigable Giles Edwards.
Hello, everyone.
And later in the broadcast, we will be joined by the filmmakers behind the telepathic handkerchief horror comedy Hanky Panky. We will have for sure Nick Roth, the co-director, writer, and actor. And almost certainly we will also have some time to talk to Lindsey Haun, the co-director slash and a major actress in the film. So we've got that to look forward to.
Yes.
But until then, we just have a very few news items to discuss today. And so, Giles, unless you have something additional, let's just jump right into it.
Oh, let's just jump right in. Anything I've got is still kind of in the works. So what do we got on the menu?
Not much, but yesterday we sort of, or yesterday, last episode,
Uh,
we teased that there was a David Lynch announcement, and then kind of guessed after we had concluded the episode what it was. And indeed, this is what it turned out to be. We have a little slide here. I don't know if you can describe that for listeners, Giles, but do
I
so.
will I will do my best, but I am no botanist. This is a close-up of a flower of some sort with a very crimson middle bit around that puffy center, maybe stamen. I think that might be the term I'm looking for. Yellow here. Could be an orchid. I know that those are very popular to do close-up photographs of for various reasons. And in a sort of handwriting scrawl is, I guess, an indication of just what this is and the two people who are the primary movers and shakers for it. Them being, of course, David Lynch, as we hinted, and I see the name there, Chrystabell.
Yeah, this is a point of a slight annoyance for me, I'm going to say. Her name is Chrystabell, and she's recorded under the name Krista Bell space. Now she's contracted it into one, and now it's Chrystabell all at once, and it messes up my database when I try to search for
Oh,
Bell.
woof. Well, maybe we can write her a polite but firmly
Very,
worded letter.
yes, firm letter. So yes, David Lynch, Chrystabell, it was a musician long before she met David Lynch, but they have collaborated for many years since Inland Empire. David produced one of her albums and added a lot to it. He does some vocals, he does some production. I think he does a lot of kind of inspiration. Um, this is what he was hinting was something for people to see and hear. The album is out, and the first single was out and has a video to it. It's a somewhat modest video, but experimental as the music is also. Giles, do you have the name of that single? We will link it, but
The name of the single, I've seen the video.
hmm.
I know it's Cellophane Memories fits in here somewhere, but I don't know if that's the album or the
Cellophane Memories is the album. The single, I don't have the link up, but we will. Well, we're gonna skip the name of the single, and we will put it in the comments.
Yeah, let's see. David Lynch, new single. I bet I can find it.
At any
It
rate,
is Sublime Eternal Love.
Sublime Eternal Love. Video is very simple. The lyrics or the music is kind of has overlapping vocal, and the video kind of follows in that motif with three different versions of Chrystabell singing in three different they're not quadrants, but yeah,
yeah, what is that?
three
Three different sections, yeah, with some
blinking
strobo.
in and out, it's
Yeah,
strobing in and out, yes.
and
So that was that.
yep. Yeah, I think he should go full Lynch though, and have Chrystabell direct a music video of David singing the same song to really make it a comprehensive experience.
He has put vocals on at least one song I know of.
Oh, okay.
He kind of, he kind of talk,
Oh, okay.
rather than
Gotcha.
singing, he kind of sings, half talk, half sings.
Gotcha.
Um, I really like Christabel's music, however. I think David Lynch's sort of aesthetic towards music matches with my own predilections. A kind of dark but smooth feeling to it that I
Yeah.
particularly like. And
Well,
so that, oh, go ahead.
no, I was going to say you will be relieved. I use allmusic.com as my sort of go-to research source, and she's at least still listed as two separate names there, but of course that may change.
Yeah, I don't want her. Okay. Anyway, that's nothing. That only refers to my personal database and not to anything Christabel has done wrong in her life or how she chooses to bill herself, which is totally her choice. Another quick bit of news we have that's perhaps it's a little movie related, perhaps not all that movie related. I don't think that there's any need for Giles to describe what he sees on the screen because it's simply a clip of a screen capture of an article for IndieWire that I feel we can publish because I grabbed it off Twitter where the subject of the interview had posted it. And the subject of that news is Jane Schonebrun, I imagine is how it's pronounced, Schonebrun.
Schonebrun, yeah, yeah.
The
Sounds good
director
to me.
of, most recently, I saw the TV Glow, which is a very weird, going to be one of the 10 weirdest movies of the year, I would presume. And Jane is talking here about her their next project, which is it's an expansion. Their first movie was called We're All Going to the World's Fair. And the second one is I Saw the TV Glow. And it's all part of a trilogy, which they're calling the Screens trilogy. The third installment, however, was originally planned to be a TV series and was passed on. So Jane has redone it now as a novel. And we do have a little bit, we have a little bit of commentary there. Giles, do you just want to read the description we have there?
Yeah, with pleasure. Yeah, from the IndieWire blurb.
Yeah.
The official description for Public Access Afterworld, which is the name of the novel in question, reads, an epic blend of literary fantasy, coming of age, sci-fi, and horror. Public Access Afterworld traces the mysterious transmissions of a secret television network known as Public Access Afterworld that draws in a wide cast of characters, from two teenage best friends in a suburban New York basement to a housewife during the last days of World War II, to a young trans content moderator at a YouTube-like corporation who becomes an unlikely hero capable of rescuing a century of victims disappeared into the broadcast's signal. Public Access Afterworld, the book, is a thrilling and profound novel of identity, conspiracy, the secret occult history of American entertainment, and the narratives that guide our lives and shape our world.
All right. So even though it's a novel, we're going to mention it and cover it because it might be of interest to people. It is sort of a spiritual sequel to other movies which we've covered. And to be honest, I think that there's probably a very strong possibility that there will be some kind of video or film adaptation of this after it is released. So that's why we are discussing a novel, which is
Yeah.
upcoming novel, Public Access Afterworld from Jane Schonebrun. Any final thoughts on that one, Giles?
Just to confirm, yeah, considering the trajectory Schoenbrunn seems to be on, I would be very surprised if this did not become a TV series or group of movies. So,
Yes, it is. It was quite a bit longer apparently than the first two movies because they reported it was going to be like they had written out 3 seasons worth of material.
yes, so they mentioned, like 1,600 pages of, shall we say, what they described as unsolicited script. Um, and so that got converted over the course of a year and a half, they say. So,
There we go.
yeah.
And so that was a little bit of news, and now into our releases. No, nothing on the big screen that's weird, or no new releases on VOD. We do have 3 physical media releases, one new of a new film, 2 re-releases. Giles, you want to go with describing this one?
Yes, this is a cover of a Blu-ray disc done in the now prevalent style of smashing as many of the characters' portraits onto the image as possible. Done in I guess, is a romantic painterly style, focusing on a central head and shirt collar of a youngish fella. Uh, and he is flanked on one side by an inverted comma of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 characters of various shapes, sizes, genders, and ages, and a couple smaller characters in fuller form. And on the right-hand side is an older woman in a hat. I'm guessing she is a primary, secondary character. And the whole milieu done in we're going to say a sort of pastel brownish palette, has a bunch of sort of flower things growing out of it seemingly, and a couple of field guide bird drawing style flying whatsits on the far right, and a sort of artistic signature style writing of the title of the film in question,
Which is,
La Chimera.
yes. And so I'm sure you haven't seen this, Giles. I saw it early, was able to get a copy through dubious means before it was released. No, I didn't steal it. It's a long story, but I had a screener for it for other purposes. And it is very art house, magical realist. The most noteworthy thing about it is the milieu, which is something I'd never seen before. I don't think anybody else has ever made a movie about precisely this subject, which is the trade in illicit artifacts, Etruscan artifacts in Italy, or it could be, illicit archaeological artifacts from anywhere, but these people have a network where they raid old tombs and steal the artwork and then sell them on the gray market, which eventually ends up in the hands of legitimate art dealers. That is really a problem that exists in society, of people stealing antiquities, and then they end up in museums, but the method through which they got there is not fair to the people who perhaps had greater rights to it, those antiquities. But that's the most notable thing about it. There are some dreamlike sequences to it. As I say, it's magical realism. It will appeal to people who have more of an art house sensibility. It is often changes tone a bit. There's, a folk song in the middle of it, about them being brave tomb raiders, and some dreamlike sequences scattered throughout, but mainly sort of a meditative drama. So I would recommend it to people who like art house movies, specifically Italian art house movies, and have a good deal of patience and don't demand weirdness oozing from every pore. Of course, the older woman that Giles was referring to is Isabella Rossellini, and I say Josh because the lead's name is Josh O'Connor.
Well.
And that's that. Any thoughts, Giles, before I move on?
No. I read a review about when you wrote it back in, well, I say back in April. That was only a couple months ago. But yeah, I tried to watch the trailer, but my browser disagreed with me, so I have nothing illuminating to remark.
Okay. Well, here's one. Perhaps you can. I have a still that perhaps you can describe for a upcoming restoration or now out restoration.
Yes, this is man, if you like canted angles, this is definitely a screen capture for you, a very wide screen capture with mirror play, a very busy milieu, a lively dinner area, possibly in a larger facility. Very starkly but garishly lit with points of light illuminating the various reveling individuals, all done up in what I'm going to guess is the height of early 70s flash fashion. And of course, the main takeaway from this, though, is that these are not people. They are giant person-sized lizards, all very obviously enjoying themselves with an excess that I could only really associate with maybe a den of sin somewhere in the American Southwest.
Perhaps a Las Vegas casino bar.
Maybe.
I think there's a
Wow.
disco. It looks like there's a disco ball in
Yeah,
the
there's a little disco ball over the smoothly lit bar section there. And I think, yeah, in the distance, I can see the one human looking form is a young woman at the bar, being the only humanoid on screen in this clip. In
and
this,
we can't see her face, so
yeah,
she might
that's it.
might just be in a human wig. Although she does have human feet, so. So this is from, I still
This is,
from.
oh, I'm gonna say Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which
Indeed.
I
So
had
the
the pleasure. Oh,
Criterion Collection has upgraded Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas to 4K UHD. There are no new features besides the restoration, at least as far as I was able to tell in this release. It's just a pure upgrade. They used to do this from DVD to Blu-ray or from Laserdisc to DVD, and now they're doing it from Blu-ray to 4K UHD. Quickly, yes, it does include a separate Blu-ray.
okay.
You want that. And like I say, no new features that I can tell. I believe is the artwork exactly, the artwork's exactly the same as on the Blu-ray and DVD versions. So this is just a pure upgrade for
Yeah,
the.
well, that's I guess certainly no bad thing, and I own the I think I just own the DVD actually, and that was rather comprehensive with its extras in the first place. So those just simply ported over. That's more than enough information for anyone but the most hardcore researcher into the background of this movie. So
So
glad.
let's talk about the movie at least a little bit. We sort of assume people are familiar with it,
Oh,
but
quite.
perhaps not, because it is a weird movie classic and a classic that cult film that a lot of people have seen, but did come out in the 90s, so it's getting old, long in the tooth now. Um, Although it was late 90s.
Yeah,
And
98, I
yeah.
believe. Yeah, I saw that in theaters as a older boy or a very young man. I remember there was an independent cinema chain, and my mother dropped me off and signed my stub because as an R-rated picture, I wasn't quite old enough, but that was how they were, satisfied that I wouldn't cause them problems to when I'm let in. And it was me and a bunch of well, bunch. It was me and about six other people, all of whom looked in their mid to late 20s, and we had a jolly good time watching this together.
So it's an adaptation of Hunter Thompson's novel from probably about 72, um, which is a semi-fictional, largely fictional, but based on some perhaps real people and some real events in there. But it is basically the tale of he and his crazy attorney going to Las Vegas to cover a dirt bike race and simply taking a lot of drugs, a lot of psychedelic drugs on the way, drinking a lot, and getting lost in a haze of debauchery. And the entire thing is a metaphor for the 1960s counterculture and how it went from sort of a peace and love into a much darker place. I think I was thinking today, thinking of this. It's like one of the original Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is kind of one of the precursors of punk in the sense that the counterculture had gone from thinking, hey, we're going to change the world, we're going to take over the dominant culture, to saying, hey, dominant culture, here's our middle finger to you. We know, we know we're not going to change you, but we just want you to know that we hate you and we're not going to conform.
Yeah, yeah, the souring of the hippie experience into bitter hedonism, I guess might describe that briefly. Yeah, it's long been one of my favorite movies. I remember your review had some remarks that I read up when we were working on the that project a few years back, and I wrote a new review for this, whereas the you realized that the focus really needed to be on the fear and loathing, that this was an uncomfortable experience, not the, has this weird sugary veneer of, oh my God, these two guys just having the time of their lives. Everything's so bright and garish, but that is not quite masking the, horribleness of reality just below the Las Vegas surface of, razzmatazz.
And I think Terry Gilliam really kind of leaned into that because at the time, he said that he was not into drugs himself. He really sort of disliked, despite, his psychedelic animations for
Hmm.
Monty Python, he was never into drugs himself and he didn't like drug culture per se. So he seemed like the wrong person to be adapting this drug culture novel, but he turned out to be the right person because, as you say, he leaned into that loathing element of it, the self-loathing, and Hunter Thompson is very sort of reflective, self-reflective, and hard on himself in this book. Although he comes off as an anti-hero, certainly I think there is a good deal of self-reflection involved in there, that he is not a role model necessarily for people.
No, no, no.
And certainly
I
his attorney is not.
Yeah, I guess yeah, Raoul Duke slash Hunter S. Thompson comes across as well as he does, really only in comparison to the other main character of the basically unrestricted id as performed by Benicio del Toro in the movie. So yeah, it's the kind of thing. It's like, oh gosh, that Hunter guy, he's all right, and then on reflection, oh no, he's just a whole lot less awful.
Exactly. All right. So that's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which we've seen and talked about many times. And so the last item being released this week is another 4K restoration. This one comes with some extras, but however, Giles, why not simply describe what's on screen for
Sure. The VHS cover for this movie has long been seared in my memory. It's a very striking image with we'll start with a very foreshortened barrel of a six gun pointed not quite directly at us, but definitely tiniest wrist movement into our face. And it's being held by one of those weary looking suited kinds of guys. I know he's involved with the police force, but I can also tell from the expression on this approaching middle-aged face here that he's got nothing to lose at the moment that this largely photorealistic picture is taken. So we have him seated in his car, pointing a gun almost directly at us and being described as a gambler, thief, junkie, killer, cop.
and
Yeah.
finally as a bad lieutenant.
Bad Lieutenant.
And I will say that the cover image has a lot of additional grain added to it, so it's very grainy and very filmic looking, and actually looks maybe a little weathered even around the edges, like a picture that had peeled off. Some of the paint had chipped off over time.
Yeah, out in the sun too long, maybe survived a rainstorm.
So yes, this is the Blu-ray for Bad Lieutenant, the original Bad Lieutenant,
Hmm.
not the remake, which people may be, or it's not really a remake, the reimagining by
Yeah.
Werner Herzog that people may be more familiar with nowadays since it's more recent. This is the 1992, I believe, original, now out on 4K UHD, also comes with a Blu-ray. In this case, the Blu-ray is a new 4K master as well. And the Blu-ray also houses a copy of the film and the special features, which are the same special features that had been available before, except that there is one new interview with the cinematographer and one new featurette called Bad Neighborhoods, the locations of Bad Lieutenant, which is kind of funny. I guess they just go around New York City and point out where various things happened. I say that's funny because there was one time I was visiting New York, and my friend who was a native New Yorker wanted me to meet him, and his directions were, yeah, meet me where the Bad Lieutenant was shot. Okay, thanks.
He knew you'd know, you
He
know.
knew I'd know, yeah. I did meet him, so.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool, yeah, because yeah, it is a very it's very much about that area as well as the character. So yeah, I could see that being a neat little thing to explore what those locations are now compared to over 30 years ago.
so I believe you've seen this one as well, Joe, or
Yeah, yeah. It's, I like many people of my movie lovingness. I succumbed to the Siren Song of Columbia House video for a spell, and this was among the bunches of cheap get you hooked on stuff because I knew the name Harvey Keitel, and I think by then I might have been familiar with the name Abel Ferrara. So yeah, I've seen this a few times back in the late 90s, so it was fairly recently on VHS.
Mhm.
And it's definitely one of the rawest um, cinematic experiences I've had. Harvey Keitel's performance is very persuasive and often distressing. Certainly, there are any number of infamous scenes, but the one that I remember now is just the titular lieutenant. I think he's completely naked and just sort of stepping lightly back and forth in an apartment room crying. And this goes on, as Abel Ferrara likes to do, for just a little bit too long. And yeah, I say that with the caveat that it's not too long, but it's very long, long enough to make you really feel awkward
Mhm.
witnessing what's going on here, which is a general motif throughout Bad Lieutenant, as in like, we're going to hold on to this shot um, more than we might if we were doing, shall we say, a more conventional melodrama.
Yeah. And so, yes, this could be described as legitimately as melodrama, I think. It is, for those who don't know, it was one of the first NC-17 films, or in the
Oh,
early wave of NC-17 movies that were a bit too strong to be rated R, but definitely not pornographic movies. So there was that category of NC-17. They tried to get that off the ground. It really didn't work out very much. Nobody releases NC-17 films anymore, but they just release them unrated. There are
yeah.
any number of films nowadays that would get that rating if people still cared to bother to submit them. But that tells you it's a very strong material with Harvey Keitel, who's on screen most of the time as a lieutenant indeed, who is a alcoholic, junkie, foul-mouthed, corrupt, um, uh, I mean, just any sort of bad quality you could imagine a human being having, he exhibits. And he's also very pathetic. He's gambling. He keeps losing money and doubling up, and he's going into debt. And all the time, he's trying to investigate the case of a nun who was raped. And this movie is very, very, very deeply Catholic
Yes.
movie, despite all or maybe because of all the horrible
Yeah.
things that go on in it. The movie is basically about forgiveness, despite the fact that it is so extreme and so bleak. And, if you looked at it without a Catholic perspective, you would say, wow, this is utterly nihilist. Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
but go on.
Uh, oh yeah. Yeah. The nun character is fascinating. She's effectively the diametric opposite of this bad lieutenant, and yeah, she was the rape victim. She knows who it was. She knows where they live even, but refuses to testify anything because of the mandate of forgiveness that she holds so dearly. So it's some of the most troubling scenes are watching psychologically for me. We're watching this lieutenant guy who's about desperation and vengeance, trying to square this circle that he's seeing of this one truly almost inhumanly, good individual who is in his life now because of this case.
Indeed. And so this film is in our reader suggested queue. As far as a weird film, it's kind of on the borderline. It's kind of something that's in the very far end of the penumbra of weird films. There's at least one scene that's a little hallucinatory. It's definitely a cult movie, and it's from Abel Ferrara, who is a director who a lot of our fans will have sympathies for, if nothing else, and who definitely goes his own way and does his own thing and makes films unapologetically that are his own. I mean, He makes no excuses. And so that will do it for that, unless you have anything to add, Giles.
No, it's a brief lineup. Oh, I guess you did send me a link about Tribeca Film
Oh,
Festival.
I forgot to do, we were going to
But
do Tribeca, and I forgot it entirely.
oh, well, that is happening. Oh, it started happening a couple days ago as you are listening to my voice and seeing me. I did a quick glance at the narrative films and I didn't see anything pop out to me.
Okay, here are the films from Tribeca that I thought were of interest. One is a re-release of Daft Punk's Interstellar 555, which is an anime style visual album, but it tells a story. The fact that that's got a 4K remaster and they're showing it suggests that it might have another upcoming re-release, which would be good. There is a movie called The A-Frame from Calvin Reeder, who's a weird filmmaker about a quantum physicist who discovers a cure for cancer. Might be worth checking out. A movie we mentioned before called She Loved Blossoms More, which, if you recall, had the woman's split face. We had one still. It was a woman's split face. It looked like a pomegranate with laurel branches in it.
Yeah.
That is wonderfully strange with acid trip-like imagery and an overall surreal vibe, is what the programmer says. And then there was a final movie that you missed, Giles, but I think you will be interested in, which is a movie from one Joel Potrykus, his
Oh.
frequent co-star Joshua Berge, and we don't,
Oh.
not much information about it. It's about just two friends venturing into the woods for a mysterious purpose. Potrykus plays one, Berge plays the other. And I thought what was especially interesting about this is Potrykus's films are all very low budget, and I doubt any of them have been in a festival like Tribeca before. So
Okay.
that's a very small film for them to take on and promote. So I hope that means
Okay, that's okay. Oh, glad you brought that to my attention. I like it. In this intense tale from provocateur Joel Protricus. Well, having met the guy, it's hard for me to think of him as a provocateur because he just seemed like a swell dude. But I imagine his movies, I guess, are weirder than much of what Tribeca often plays around with. So excellent.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to get through that in a couple of minutes, and you reminded me because since I didn't have a slide for it,
Okay,
and I was
yeah.
thinking about our upcoming guest, who we should
Oh
get
yes.
into, Nick Roth, the director of Hanky Panky, horror comedy, telepathic handkerchief, and also we're hoping to talk to Lindsey Haun, who was also in Hanky Panky, co-directed, and has a long list of IMDb credits, and you may possibly know her from True Blood, the popular vampire drama. But
Well,
they will be with us very shortly, and they were so much on my mind that I completely forgot about Tribeca.
well, they sound like a lot of fun, so let's dive right into that then, I guess.
All right. Well, Giles and I will take a break, and it will be instantaneous for you, but we will be back with Nick Roth. Talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, and we are back, and we have with us the filmmaker, one of the filmmakers behind Hanky Panky, the telepathic handkerchief horror comedy. It is co-director, writer, and also actor in the film, Nick Roth. Hello, Nick.
Yeah, wear a lot of hats in this movie.
Yes,
Ha,
a lot of
ha,
hats. Indeed.
ha.
Can
Um,
you seem yes, I've told that joke before.
Oh,
Is
I'm
that
all over
clear?
that.
I it makes more sense if you've seen the movie too. So there's a lot, I guess, that we can talk about with this movie, and a lot of things that I think are interesting to, especially to people with an interest in micro budget cinema, and maybe your fellow micro budget filmmakers could learn a lot from this film. So, but I think probably the best first place to start is with the genesis of the project, because I know it's a lot longer than you might guess.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a movie that came about because we just really wanted to make a feature film. Me and Lindsey and a number of our collaborators had worked together on a lot of shorts, music videos, corporate videos, everything. But really, like, there's nothing like making a movie, for getting people to see it, because there's just not that much you can do with a short as like there is when you have a whole movie. And so Hanky Panky exists because this was the movie that we figured we could make. Like, what, you know what I mean? It's not like we were sitting around burning with what stories are we trying to create for the world? Is it this talking handkerchief fights a evil killer top hat movie? No, it was that we wanted to make a movie. We wanted to, and my best guess was, I was like, well, I don't know if we can make it that good, but I bet I can make it really funny. I believe that we can make a really funny movie. We have really talented, funny friends who can act, and I believe in us in that. And I think that if we make it a horror movie, it'll make it more likely people will see it, because we had worked a lot in and around horror and the horror world and the horror community, and they're a good bunch of folks to watch weird shit. And so comedy horror, it's just like that wasn't even like a choice that was made. It was just like, this is what I think we can accomplish. And I don't know, we like puppets, we got puppets, Toby is a puppeteer, we were like, okay, puppet comedy horror, we got a cabin, let's make it. Let's do it.
So I would normally have us alternate questions, but because just before I forget, I wanted to ask, behind you, do we have actual prop from the film or props from the film?
Yeah, I've set up my little Zoom station to be a little Hanky Panky homage, and so we do have one of the, there wasn't just one hat or one napkin playing. It's like Mary Kate and Ashley, you got to like sub in the twin once in a while. I have here a Harry. He's the peacock feather eyes have worn away into nothing, but and I also have a Woody with me. I have a couple. I have, there's some that are rigged to fly, some that are rigged to be on a hand.
All right, Giles, question.
Yeah, let's if we can dig a little. You've nicely explained that you kind of, if you were making a movie, this had to be the one. But if you may indulge me and take us back all the way 10 years ago, when the premise of Hanky Panky, I'm guessing, first came to life in the 2014 short film Hanky Panky, which I have not seen, but looks like it stars the same gentleman with the same troubled expression, having maintained over those 10 years, I'm certain. What, obviously the feature film was something you had to do because it was the one you could do. What was the inception, I guess, for the hub of the story to bring about the 7-minute short in the first place?
Well, so that short was done for the 48-hour film project, which is, if for those who don't know, you have 48 hours exactly to start and finish a short film. And there, we did it in the LA version. It was like 120 teams of filmmakers who did it that year. And it's a fun thing. You draw out of a hat, unrelated hat. You draw like you get assigned a genre, a prop, a line of dialogue, the name of a character, a few things. And like the prop that year was a napkin. And our team, I can't, this was so long ago, I don't remember who takes credit / blame for anything, but someone, I was probably me, was like, what if we make the napkin the main character instead of just a prop? Because then that'll help us stand out. And also we only have a couple days, and that'll be a funny, and our genre that we selected or got assigned rather was comedy. So, and we had a character named Sam. So we were like, okay, we'll do a talking napkin movie. Like, and then at that point, we just set out to do this. It's very modest in scope, but I think it was quite charming. This like short film that's just a couple setting up one of each of their friends on a blind date. And the two of them are very awkward and they don't really hit it off. And we sort of go underneath the table where we meet two napkins who on their laps are having a very different kind of conversation. One that's much more, into their ego. It's very like the napkins are not bound up in all of the sort of human problems, and so that we sort of cut back and forth between the napkin world and the people world, and it intersects when there's a spill or whatever. And it was not, it was a little bawdy, but it wasn't like disgusting. There was no horror element at all. It was just like a rom-com little piece, one scene. And and he spills something on her. And then through the napkins, we sort of introduce, we resolve, this couple maybe is gonna go on another date. That's it. Very modest. And we had made a lot of shorts like this, and that one, I don't know, we just sort of really, really liked it. And so when we were like, we're going to make a feature film, it should probably be a comedy horror movie. It's going to take place in this cabin because that's Lindsey's dad's cabin. So we're like, we have a cabin. We had this funky camera that we won, a Digital Bolex D16 with another short film that was in another film festival. It was at Slam Dance, and then we won as a prize this camera that shoots on these old 16mm lenses. So we had like bits and pieces that were really assembled for us. And then we're like, well, what's the silliest short film that we've done that we could turn into a comedy horror movie? Hanky Panky was sort of like natural. Well, okay, what if this handkerchief gets wrapped up in a Clue-style murder mystery that he's got to solve? I don't remember who or why we came up with Killer Top Hat. I keep asking people, like I asked Lindsey the other day, I was like, who came up with the top hat? And she was like, no, it's just the opposite of a napkin. And I was like, all right, that's as good an explanation as I can come up with now.
I did not know a top hat was the opposite of a napkin. You learned something.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I certainly have no arguments against that. Yeah. Now, I guess speaking of this top hat, there is a, shall we say, a big name associated with Hanky Panky. Obviously, you have your career and have done your things, as has Lindsey Haun, but even on the promotional material, you mention Seth Green. Now, just to briefly go into his involvement, obviously as Harry the Evil Hat, but how did you catch his eye for his involvement?
So Seth is a friend of ours, and we know Seth because Lindsey and Seth's wife Claire, who plays Kelly in the movie, met in an improv class at Upright Citizens Brigade like 12 or 14 years ago or something. And so like they had both been like told like you should take an improv class by their reps or whatever, and went and took an improv class and met each other and became friends, and like didn't go back to the improv class. And so we like Claire was always involved with the project from pretty early, just as like being someone who was fun and down and an actor who wanted to do it. We didn't initially ask Seth to be involved because he's famous and we're not, and we didn't want him to think that we were like just trying to sandwich his name into our movie. And then afterwards he was like, I want to be involved, and we were like, well, we got puppet voices, you want to do one? I perhaps was naive in understanding that once we had a distributor, like that they would want to market the film exclusively based on Seth's name, even though he had been, only involved as a voice. And I think he does great and he adds a lot, but obviously he's not the star of the movie. And so there was there's a little bit of back and forth. There's only so much you can do as the filmmaker, because you're like, well, I want people to see this movie, and the distributing people and the marketing people and all those people are like, this is how to get anybody to see this movie. So thus on some of those posters, Seth Green is Hanky Panky or whatever. So be it. Seth. The one thing that's cool about Seth's fame is that I think a lot of the people that are his fans are also potential fans of a movie like Hanky Panky, because so many people know him from either Family Guy or from Robot Chicken, or from like I knew him before I met him, obviously, as Can't Hardly Wait and all of that. But other people, like he's got a lot of people that want to see whatever he does and are willing to go down some weird road to look at something strange. Like Robot Chicken is a deranged television show that he made. So I think there's at least some tonal overlap there.
Yeah, certainly he certainly seemed to fit in there with the vocalization, so it's definitely seamless there. And I guess that reminds me of one question that has not been has been on my mind since I watched it, however long ago that was, a month or so now. There's obviously Seth Green is Harry the Evil Hat, and everyone else is credited within in the various roles of largely doomed individuals. I sat through the entire credits and even poked around briefly, trying to find out who voiced Woody, because I did not see any indication whatsoever for that. And his particular accent, shall we say, really caught my ear. And so I've been a little curious about that ever since.
It's buried somewhere in the end credits that it's Toby Bryan, who also plays Norm. Toby talk about wear a lot of hats on the movie. Toby, Toby's who built this all the Harry puppets and rigged all the fishing lines and made all the fake blood and plays Norm and helped develop the project and helped with the script. Is a pretty important collaborator on it. So Toby is in the dual role of Woody and Norm. That wasn't necessarily originally the intention, because Toby was puppeteering, and so it's Toby's hand is always the hand inside Woody, always. But we sort of did voices. Usually it was Toby doing Woody, but like if Harry was speaking, sometimes that was me, sometimes that was Lindsey, always with like the awareness that we could, after the fact, cast those roles with name actors, right? Like at some point we would go to, if we went to Seth for Harry, we might go to another, we have a lot of friends who have big names or have, somewhat of a profile who would, Woody would probably be a day's work at the most, right? And we would go to them afterwards. But then I don't know, like I fell in love with Toby's performance as Woody, and it just seemed so much of a piece. And almost all of Woody's dialogue, obviously not all of it, but almost all of it is recorded live, in the space with the other actors. We didn't go back and record over most of it. 90% of it probably was recorded there, and it gives it this feeling that's like he feels very real, very present. And because Toby was literally timing his vocal performance with the movements, it just works really well, especially for a puppet that doesn't have a face. He doesn't have eyes. It really takes, you got to do whatever you can to imbue humanity into him. And like if we had gone back and found like some famous voice actor to come in and do another voice on top of Woody, I don't think that would have worked. And so we were like, no, it's got to be Toby. Toby has to stay Woody and Norm. But Seth can be Harry, because I always kind of knew, like, Harry in my head was Skeletor. Like that was just always the voice. And Seth has a great he does Skeletor and Robot Chicken. Like I know Seth's Skeletor, so I was like, this fits. I had it from throughout.
Okay, that's fantastic. Yeah, Toby Bryan was in his human performance was also always fascinating to observe, with whatever it was he was up to for his acting method there as the rustic brother.
Everybody, rustic is such a nice euphemism for what he is. Everybody made such bold choices as actors. Like in retrospect, it's not like we decided it should be that way. It was just like people, like we said a lot of yes to things as a collective, like as a troupe, throughout the sort of what should be in this movie and what should these people be like and what should they do. As much as we kept it grounded and real as much as possible, but like there's some pretty big choices in terms of myself included as Dr. Crane. He's sort of the most, I was in academia before I was full-time pursuing screenwriting, and he's a little bit the most extreme version of actual professors that I knew in the world of higher education, and the sort of most ridiculous version of myself.
That brings up a question that I had been considering asking, which is, in Giles's review, he posits that the characters are killed in the order of most annoying to least annoying, which I think is subjective. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that order, but is that something you had planned? Is there a reason the first character dies first and the second character dies second?
The reason we killed characters in the order that we did was based on actor availability. That is that is it. When I say that this movie was like, this is the movie we could make and not the movie that like in a perfect world we would want, like we didn't have to compromise anywhere on this because we just made whatever was available to us. We used whatever we could and whatever we had. We used the lights that someone was willing to let us. I think they were mostly used for shooting porn. We just used those lights like that. There was never here's what we want, here's choice B, C, D. It was just, there was never that conversation. So it was when it came to like writing the script and crafting the story, it was like, okay, I gotta die, I gotta direct the movie, so let's kill me off. But then we only have Azure, who plays Lilith, for like 3 days or whatever, so we have to think of, first of all, we got to kill her off right when she shows up, but then also we got to think of some reason why she's hiding for the first half of the movie. And again, I don't remember who was like, well, what if she had a face on the back of her head and that gives her migraines? I have no recollection of who said that first. But then we just said yes to it. Right. And so it was like, okay, we got it. We know we have to kill, we lose this actor here, we lose Claire here, we lose Christina here. So we'll kill them. And I don't know, if you could stay and do the whole movie, then you can be a lead and stay until the end of the movie was kind of the calculus there.
You survive based on your availability.
Yeah.
And another thing that I wanted to get out is the movie actually kind of, and I'm gathering that this is what it really was like, is it gives off a vibe of a bunch of friends together in a cabin on vacation, and somebody says, hey, we got this film, the script to film, by the way, and a movie breaks out. But it's like it's a bunch of people just having a blast and enjoying themselves, making a movie. Did you all like live in close proximity for a week or so that you were shooting this?
Oh, no, we all stayed in that one cabin together for the entire time. We didn't have anywhere else to stay. There was just one cabin, and we were there for a few weeks prepping, a few weeks shooting. Nobody stayed anywhere else. It was just, I wouldn't recommend doing this without it being a very close group of friends and family. We slept on the couches and blew up some air mattresses. Like, prep for that movie involved me. I mean, I did some crazy things. I went and bought like a bunch of bunk beds off Craigslist in like remote rural Utah, driving my wife's and I's at that time Prius, like around in the snow, like putting chains on this like beat up little car that had no business going up like snowy hills, loading it up and like strapping bunk beds to the roof of it and driving it around. We crammed in there. And so yes, I'm so happy that, because what we were always just sort of hoping and praying for was that the vibe of how zany and crazy the whole thing felt to make, some of that would come across on the screen. And if some of that like energy was there, then that would be a good sign. I mean, you're exactly right, except I did tell people we were making a movie before luring them up to Utah. It wasn't like I promised a good time of snowmen building and sledding, and they got there and I was like, surprise, it's a movie. They knew there was a movie. I maybe was like, yeah, we'll go snowboarding on the weekends. And I don't think much snowboarding was had. I think on the weekends I was just working, and I think most people were either exhausted or had more work to do in one way or another. Because I was also doing like the DIT. I was doing like, there was an awful lot to be done with managing all the media and backing up hard drives and, Francis Ford Coppola style, rewriting the whole script every night and, taking some of that stuff pretty seriously. It was crazy. And it's just, at the end of the whole thing, like, it's shocking. It's so gratifying right now when anyone treats it like a real movie at all in any capacity. Because like, this was like a group of friends who made this movie, and we kind of feel like we pulled one over on a lot of people. Like Apple and Amazon and Google have this on their platforms, and we're like right next to, like, there's like podcasts that are like, this week we're doing The Fall Guy and Hanky Panky, and we're like, what happened? How did we trick anybody into thinking this was a real movie? I guess it is.
Yeah, and indeed, possibly part of its own movie universe. Obviously, you expanded upon the awkward encounter between the two leads from the opening short film, which were the two, well, I'll call them the romantic leads in Hanky Panky, Ashley Holiday Tavares and Jacob DeMonte Finn. They reprised, I'm guessing, their roles to one degree or another for this, and not to give, this is a horror movie, but it's it's a happy ending style horror movie, and I think things are nicely set up for further
Oh yeah. I
adventures.
have a half a script for Hanky Panky 2, which nobody can stop us. You know what I mean? We don't need anybody to help. Like we proved we can make one movie and release it with absolutely nothing. So if we are able to, the success of Hanky Panky 1 will only any economic success that it manages to scrounge together will that'll just go towards more blood for Hanky Panky 2. There could be a lot more gore and blood. I think people would like that. I think people want it from, especially like this poster that the distributor made, where it's really emphasizing that this is a killer top hat movie rather than my initial poster, which was like based on the Clue posters, just everybody in a house together being silly. But I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun sort of leaning into the horror of it more and make it a more alien invasion killer top hat franchise. That would be so fun. Yeah, that's gonna happen. We're doing that.
Yeah.
Everybody will be in it again, even if they were killed. We'll figure out a way to play someone else or something.
Oh, no, it's good to keep a film family like that together. And yeah, I know from interviewing I've done with people who've either made violence movies or horror movies that of the variety that they're working on, they want the practical effect look. And yes, I know blood is more expensive than some people might think, especially bursts
Well,
of it.
what it is that's the blood's not the expensive part. It's the fact that, every outfit you have, now you have to have 5 of it because every single take you're gonna ruin that. You know what I mean? Like if we did a short film where we blew up a head once, and the amount of blood, and we shot it in our own house. I for years was finding bits of blood because it gets on actors, then they walk around, you bump into doorways. You don't think about this. You have to repaint whole rooms after you, like we had blood on the ceiling, we had blood on the walls. And then but then not just in that room. People walk out, they get it on their shoes, they get blood everywhere. Blood it's messy. We would have used more of it, but that's Lindsey's dad's cabin. We couldn't get blood anywhere in it. We had to be very careful.
So, and we've also touched on this, but it's something I guess I'd like for you to reaffirm, is that, when we interview some filmmakers and they get nervous about budgets and don't want to be called a low budget or micro budget film because they think it might drive some audience members away. But it seems to me you guys have gone exactly the opposite and are bragging about how little you spent making this movie. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I'm proud of what we were able to accomplish just on favors and friendship and loaning stuff and borrowing things. We didn't do anything illegal. Like I'm having, well, I mean, people did drugs on it, but like we didn't like steal anything. You know what I mean? We did it pretty by the book for having no money, and I think that's something to lean into and be like, well, I mean, this is really a movie that I think like we're all, we're filmmakers who made it, but we also kind of made it for a filmmaking community. I think like one of the primary audiences for this movie is people who have like made movies with their friends. And one thing that I've heard from people is like, who are like that, is like, it's so cool that you made a whole feature film in the way and style that me and a lot of people I know have made, like shorts and a lot of stupid things. Like you committed so much more time and effort and energy into this very dumb thing than anybody else does. Like nobody does it like this. And so I think that's unique about the movie. And I think the end result is, it's something I hope that's refreshingly different than everything that's out there. And can you imagine if we tried to pretend like we had money and leaned into it and be like, real movie with, we had $1.5 million and this is what we came up with?
For example, I know a lot of people have commented about at one point there's visible wires on the
Yeah.
hat. And so you are just yeah, we're not pretending. This is what it is.
I think it's priorities, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not so worried about seeing the wires or not seeing. You see the wires on the Muppets, you see the wires on Kermit, you still love Kermit, right? Like, I don't know. Half of the people are like, this is so embarrassing. I can see all the wires. It's like, okay, movie's not for you. That's fine. And the other half of people are like, oh my God, it's so brilliant that you showed all the wires. And I'm like, I got rid of the wires I could. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't worry about them. It's not like I was like, we're gonna see the wires, and it's like this like exercise in formalism or something. I was just like, there's some places I got rid of wires because we shot plates and we did some things like that. But then there's a lot of like moving handheld camera puppets on strings. Like, okay, fine, you see the wires. Like, if that's if it was neither like a programmatic decision nor just like an accident. We were just like, that's not. I'm interested in telling a sort of funny story and making people laugh and having it feel like I don't know what this movie is. This is completely different. I love movies that sort of keep you off guard with not letting you know what kind of genre you're watching. Like, that's one of my favorite experiences as a viewer, is like thinking I'm in a one kind of movie and I end up in another movie. There's a I was influenced by, there was this independent Japanese movie from like 2008, 2009 called Love Exposure. Have you guys seen this?
Absolutely, yeah. Wrote it up long.
Oh yeah. It was very influential because it's like, so it's like 3 or 4 hours long, but it doesn't fuse genres so much as like switch genres several times in the middle. So at one point you're watching like a screwball comedy about guys using kung fu to like shoot upskirt photography of girls they get in with but then it gets like really dark and it becomes like this like drama about this guy and his Catholic upbringing. She gets in a cult, then it becomes like an action piece about how he's got to like save the girl from the cult. Like, I like that. I found it a very rewarding and unique experience to watch it. And so it's not that Hanky Panky doesn't really do that in particular, but that vibe, the willingness to go there, I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I noticed early on when right near
I
the
did. So I
beginning.
promised we might have Lindsey, and we
Oh,
got
wow.
Lindsey. We did
Hey,
get Lindsey.
Hello,
hello.
Lindsey.
Oh, I can't hear you.
You can't hear because I'm on here. We can just unplug the headphones, I think.
He's the co-director.
Do you want to
and,
pull up do you want to sit in the pilot chair since I'm in it?
Sure.
I'll move.
Hi, everybody.
Can we still hear you guys?
I hope so.
I hope so.
No. Hold on. I got to plug in the speaker.
Okay.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear us? Hello.
Oh, wow. Look at this.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Oh, great.
All
It's,
right.
Lindsey
Hi.
Haun, the co-director, and had a major acting role in the film and has a long acting career. Started acting as a child actress, if IMDb is to be believed. So
Yes. And it is.
Well,
Glad we got
Sometimes,
that.
not everything. It's true. It's true. It had my wrong birth date for a really long
Oh.
time.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
glad that's fixed.
Me too.
So I guess we have a quick time for like a quick hanky panky question or two. So let's see. How did you guys divide up, since you're listed as co-directors, how did you divide up the directing duties?
Well, first of all, anytime he was on screen, I was directing. Anytime I was on screen, he was directing. So that part split pretty well. And then I had some specific ideas for visuals, and I work really well with performance. So I took over a lot of that, but also we were pretty good when we both weren't on when we both weren't on film. We were pretty good at sharing the duties and like, hey, what do you think about this? And we tried to keep it so that only one of us was talking to the actors per scene, basically, so that it wasn't like a free-for-all. Because I've worked with co-directors before where they're like both telling you something and then and it's like contradictory and they don't realize it, you know what I mean? So that was really important to me, that it was, for each scene there was only really one mouth talking, even though we were both talking to each other and trying to figure out. And there were some times when Nick was like had so many hats on that he would be like,
Too many hats.
oh, too many hats. I didn't even mean to make a hat joke. But like he would be like digging out snow trenches, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, well, I'm directing this scene, you know. So or like trying to get cars out of the snow. It was a whole day where Nick and Claire were like in charge of pulling a car out of the snow that we had gotten stuck. So
Giles,
Well,
you have any Lindsey Haun
yeah, because you
question?
have you have an important monologue right around the climax of the movie, and I was personally curious where that bit of characterization came from because the voice you adopted there, I actually know someone who speaks like that.
really?
Yes, it was very uncanny to observe or listen to that person on a table going at length about what you did. So I'm just sort of wondering if you might be able to touch very briefly on that while we've got a little bit of time here.
That is so sweet. No one has asked me this question, and it's Chrissy from Three's Company. That's all I'm playing. That's all I'm doing. I just the thing is that Christina and Claire and I have very similar looks. And then on top of it, we can all have very similar vocal tones. So I was like, how am I going to differentiate us from each other? So yeah, I loved Three's Company growing up, and I was like, I know, I could be Chrissy.
Satisfies my curiosity wonderfully. So I guess we have what, probably 2 questions left, Greg, maybe 2.5.
Yeah, ask one hanky panky question and then our final question.
Oh yeah, I will just sort of curious. Obviously, this is out. Nick was very, very boastful about how this is on. You pulled the fast one on Apple and IMDb. Is this just sort of a done deal distribution now, or is there further steps you're thinking of taking with this?
Well, it will be. When does this air? What do you mean? Oh yeah, when does this podcast air? I thought you were asking me when.
Tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Well, okay, so on June 14th, it'll also be on AVOD, on Tubi, and all of the other platforms. So that's probably something we should be promoting more. It'll be free on all the advertised base. I think it'll be on, I don't have the list, Roku, Pluto. They've all got absolutely absurd names.
Yeah.
It makes sense that it's Hanky Panky will be on all of them.
Mhm.
Tubi for sure is the biggest of them. June 14th, it'll be on everywhere.
It's a nice broad future release, and we heard tell already that there is a follow-up in the works script wise, which is great.
Yeah, it's very kooky.
It's
even kookier than the first one.
Whoa. And I guess in our Greg?
Yeah, well, so we have like 2 minutes and we have 2 questions. And first we'd just like to give you guys a chance to plug or promote anything else you have upcoming besides Hanky Panky 2? No?
Nothing. Just Hanky. Well, I mean, do you?
Nothing that we really can plug. I mean, my band is on Spotify, the Han Solo Project. But other than that,
Say the name again.
The Han Solo Project, HAUN.
Okay.
But nothing up and coming that we can talk about at the moment. Yeah.
All right, Giles, final question.
All right, we like to wrap up every 366 interview. This is for both of you. If you'd care to tell us what your hometown is, and can you recommend a restaurant there?
Oh my gosh. Wow. You go first.
My hometown is Los Angeles. What restaurant? You know what? I'm gonna give it up to Cactus Taqueria. Here's why.
Cactus Tacos.
Cactus Taqueria, dependable. Now, if you DoorDash from them or whatever, they forget most of the stuff like half the time, so not dependable in that way. But the food, very dependable. Good tacos at a reasonable price. I feel like Los Angeles taco prices have gotten out of control. We've sort of like they're way ahead of inflation, right? Tacos should be a couple bucks, and you shouldn't have to sacrifice. It's a taco. That's what it's for. And Cactus Taqueria, they do that. They have good horchata. There's several locations. It's not quite a chain. Maybe it's a chain. I don't know. So it's a taco chain in LA, and I like it. So Cactus.
Excellent. And we will just say that's Lindsey's pick too, because we're out of time. So goodbye. Thank you both so much for
Yeah,
being on,
glad you
Nick.
could pop by, Lindsey. Nick, it
Yeah,
was great
Las Vegas, the
chatting.
Nomad, Las Vegas, all the restaurants at the Nomad. That's what I would say.
There we go. We got it in. All right.
Perfect.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.